The Alamo isn't just Miami's first hospital. It's a place full of history, mystery, and possibly even ghosts. Right here on the campus of Jackson Memorial Medical Center is the Alamo. Let's take a look. Thank you, Dr. George, for joining us on Call Off Script. It's a Jackson Health System podcast. We are here in the Alamo, the most historic building that we've got on campus. Thank you for joining us.
It's great being here. It's exciting. It's historic, as you've said, too.
Really, and your life's work is being a Miami historian. That's so important to capture this history. How important is the building that we're standing in is?
It's vital because it gives somebody who sees it from the inside and outside a sense of what medical science was like at that time, how hospitals were at that time. I mean, this is the original. This goes back about 110 years.
Wow.
They built it between 1916 and 1918. So it's phenomenal to have it here and preserved and restored.
Restored too, because stepping even into this room, it kind of takes you way back in time to when you needed a prescription filled. Even right behind us, you can see all the tinctures and things that came together to help care for people. Can we talk about that care process when people would come into this hospital in Miami? How special was that?
It was very special. And see, it's interesting. They broke ground. They moved into the hospital, the Alamo, in June of 1918. In October of 1918, the so-called Spanish influenza epidemic caught up to Miami.
Wow.
And scores of people were treated both within the building and outside of the building in tents. For usually the process was influenza that yielded to pneumonia, that if it wasn't treated right, that resulted in death.
Wow.
And there were scores of people who died, not just from this building here, but just in greater Miami itself. So the building opened up just 3 months or 4 months before this worst epidemic up until the more recent epidemic of our times. Absolutely amazing, the timing on this thing.
You took the words out of my mouth. Imagine how many lives in Miami were saved just because this infrastructure, this building was here, and the scores of doctors and nurses that rotated in and out to care for people. It's very important.
You're right, scores if not hundreds of people's lives were saved, and the staff was so overworked, it was just frenzy. They had 12-hour days, 14-hour days, sometimes 24-hour days. Because they were short of people. There was such an emergency going on here with this epidemic.
And it all started with Dr. Jackson. That actually leads me, I want to take you into another interesting room that we've got here in the Alamo that'll make sure to highlight the experience that patients went through when they came into the Alamo, all the faces, the friendly faces that they saw. But when we go into this room, it's going to take us back significantly, and it leaves not a lot to the curiosity. So explain to me what we're seeing in here.
Well, you're looking at an operating room, and you got the instruments, you got the bedding here.
Right.
You got different machines here to keep people going. It's an amazing room. It's just a flashback into the past. I think of all the advances we look at in American society and in world society, probably the greatest advances have been in the medical field. And Jackson personifies that. I mean, the units they've opened up here, whether it's polio treatment or whatever it might be, Jackson's been in the forefront of this for a long time.
Right, all starting with Dr. Jackson. Can you tell us a little bit about him? Who was he?
Very interesting man, born in way far north of here, Bronson, Florida. Lived for a while in different small towns in Florida. At the invitation of Henry Flagler's railroad, soon to be Empire, he was invited to come down here and be the railroad doctor. And so he came to Miami at its birth. He came to Miami in the spring of 1896. The city was incorporated in July of 1896. And they really didn't have a hospital. So he took care of Florida East Coast Railway and hotel employees, Flagler Organization employees. As time went on, the city grew very quickly, and he said, look, we need to help a lot of other people just besides the railroad people.
Right.
He became instrumental in what becomes the first Miami City Hospital. And it grew out of something that's very interesting. There was a Jesuit priest at the Church of Jesu, then called the Holy Name Church in downtown Miami. There's still a Jesu there.
Yeah.
It was founded in 1896. His name was Father Friend. And he started in 1909 a public hospital, for lack of a better thing. And they called it the Friendly Hospital for Father Friend.
Right.
But after a while, they just couldn't handle it, the amount of people, the expenses.
And it became a little less friendly, I can imagine.
It definitely did. It definitely did. And it was ultimately taken over by the city.
Yes.
And so it stood about where today's Biscayne Boulevard, there was no boulevard at the time, there was North Bayshore Drive, today's Biscayne Boulevard and 9th Street, Northeast, is today. And they decided by the 1910s, this city's growing fast. In fact, Miami had the highest per capita growth of any city in the country between 1910 and 1920. It jumped from 5,500 to nearly 30,000 people.
And with the traffic today, you would believe that statistic is still true, my friend.
Yeah, exactly,
okay?
exactly.
It's a busy city.
Yes, it is. It's a very busy city. So they decided, the city did, now the city's operating the hospital. They renamed it the Miami City Hospital. We need bigger facilities. And so they built this out in the piney woods. So you move inland in Miami of yesteryear, you know, you've got the hammock area along the bay, a thick jungle-like. Then as you move further inland, it's typically a piney woods, Dade County pine. And so you had that. You even had like the cattle farms around here at that point.
I cannot imagine a cow walking down a dirt road in Miami.
Exactly, and especially, how about going down today's Northwest 12th Avenue?
Oh,
I mean,
man,
that'd be
come on.
amazing.
You'll see some things.
Absolutely.
Not cows.
So the hospital was built over a long period of time.
Right.
You know, money had to be garnered for this, equipment had to be purchased and what have you. And it finally opened in June of 1918. And then the so-called Spanish influenza epidemic took place. I always hesitate to say Spanish. I'm married to a Spanish woman. She doesn't like to be knocked for the fact that we call it the Spanish influenza epidemic.
Yeah, that's a fair point. So when we talk about Dr. Jackson,
Yes.
tell me about the legacy that he left as well, because there's a lot of rumors going around, right? Some people hear and see the spirit of him walking around, but we do want to talk about his influence, right?
He was
It's a
so
big
influential.
deal.
He was a Renaissance person. He founded the first really notable civic organization, the Rotary Club, soon before his death. He had a hand with the movers and shakers of Miami. He was always going around looking for support for what he was doing medically and what have you. He was revered. At his funeral in downtown Miami, at a church in downtown Miami, 900 people showed up.
Wow.
And then the city said, in honor of this, we're going to close the business district, today's downtown, between, I think it was 9 and 11 a.m., the time of his services and his burial. And so that happened also, and he was buried in the Miami City Cemetery. He is one of 5 generations of Florida-born family who are physicians.
Wow.
And he's buried in the Miami City Cemetery.
Goodness. Isn't that something special?
Yeah, it really is. He visited a lot of patients on horseback. In those days, you'd go see the patient as opposed to what's happening now. And he was just beloved in the community.
Yeah, one thing that we talked about a little bit earlier is that one thing that he would do is see patients in one room and maybe operate on them in the other. And that's kind of the infrastructure we're in right now. Talk to us about that.
So some of the operations he did in his office.
Wow.
His office initially, until 1916, stood at today's Northeast 2nd Avenue and Flagler Street in downtown Miami. And right behind it was his house. And both of those objects were moved over to Southeast 12th Terrace in the 1910s. But so he was all over the place. He was overseeing the hospital, and he was overseeing his own private practice, both of which dovetailed at times. You know, you would take somebody to the hospital from your private practice. Very busy man, an inveterate cigar smoker, and that was sadly the custom of that time.
I was going to say, I mean, I hate to hear a doctor of smoking cigarettes and using tobacco, but I mean,
it's a bad example.
The more you know, right?
Exactly.
A true testament of how technology has come a long way.
Oh, it really has. And you know, he started feeling ill late in his lifetime. And it was a lung disease he had, probably related to smoking. And he was, they were going to operate on him. They said it's inoperable. There was a tumor in his lung area. And he died about a month after that.
After that diagnosis.
Yeah, exactly.
And so how long did it take for us to switch over to the Jackson name? Some people don't even realize that every day they are speaking his spirit alive.
That's so interesting you should ask that question. He died about the 3rd of April of 1924. Within about a week or two, the Miami City Commission had renamed this Jackson Memorial Hospital. From the Miami City Hospital to Jackson Memorial Hospital.
What a testament.
It took about a week or two.
Right. I mean, come on. We know city government moves slow, so a week or two is making something move and shape.
Yeah, he was a larger-than-life figure in this community. He
Absolutely.
really was. Yeah.
And the fact that this building is standing more than 100 years later, I want to take you down the hallway because something that's important for us to talk about too is the preservation of this building,
yes,
right?
very, very important.
I think one thing that you mentioned, Dr. George, is that this is not the original location of the Alamo. Has it been moved?
It was
preserved it?
moved in the late 70s, and the word went out that the hospital was growing so quickly they were going to build the east building, and they needed to knock this down in order to provide the space for that, or at least part of the space for it. And when word got out, this community became energized, saying, you can't do that. That's the original hospital building. So this campaign called Save the Alamo went out in the late 1970s, and they raised money over a period of about 2 years, moved the building about 479 feet, a little bit southwest of where it had been, and that's right here, in order to do that. And then the next step, of course, was to preserve it.
Right.
And that was a longer thing. You know, you raised money and sporadically you did different improvements. But I mean, it's in great shape considering its age and how heavily used it was over the years.
Right, and I can imagine that takes time, right? And I don't think enough people understand how much it takes to physically move a building from one place to the next.
Well, it's an amazing task, and it's a fairly big building, and again, it's masonry, so it's a heavy building. Yeah. They had rolling blocks under it, and you know, all sorts of things. But it was amazing because the campaign was so broad-based. It was just everyday average folks who probably had benefited from something Jackson had done for them. Yeah. And many of them saying, listen, I actually got treated in this building once upon a time, so I don't want to see this thing go down. Yeah. And they were able to save it. It's a huge example, one of the first examples we ever had of historic preservation in this area.
I was going to ask you, that was going to be my next question.
I mean, this is a city that just reinvents itself all the time now.
It really does.
That skyline's the third densest in the country now, after New York and Chicago.
You know what, I would believe it, Dr. George.
Yeah,
it's so special that they've rallied together strangers, nurses, doctors, to make sure that an infrastructure like this has lasted the test of time. And when you look around, yes, some of the things are older than others, but it fits in place with the culture of Miami, with the archways and the beauty of this building. It fits. The
Mediterranean style, and this really predates something that happened in the mid-20s. In the mid-20s, Greater Miami hit this real estate boom. We know it as the boom, and the dominant style of architecture was the Mediterranean style. This building predates the boom by almost 10 years.
Wow, ahead of its time.
Yes, with the same architecture, which is so interesting.
It really is. When we look around the Alamo, we can see, we can smell, we can read all of the history that's within these walls. What's something that important that people really need to take away from the fact that this building is still here?
Well, A, it's so solid. B, it's got the Mediterranean arches, and the exterior is just gorgeous. A lot of Mediterranean influence. It was designed by probably the preeminent architect at that time, a man named August Geiger. He did a lot of Miami Beach. And he already introduced a sort of Mediterranean style in the 1910s when nobody else was doing this design. I love the terrazzo floor. I mean, it's way ahead of its time. If you go to an Art Deco hotel in South Beach on Ocean Drive, you're going to see this. Yes, exactly. Absolutely. And here it is. It's great.
It really is special.
It's a building ahead of its time, and of course, in the way people were treated here, it's way ahead of its time. You know, it's great treatment.
And hopefully we can make sure to keep Dr. Jackson's legacy alive and making sure we preserve the important moments in Jackson Health System's history.
Absolutely. Looking forward.
Thank you, Dr. George, for your time.
Thank you. Thank you.
And after more than 100 years, the Alamo still stands to tell its history. Thank you for watching On Call Off Script. Make sure to stay tuned for our next episode and follow us on our social media accounts at Jackson Health.